Okay, today I'm talking with Michael Gabriel, Reference and Instruction Librarian at Roosevelt University and Librarian for the Center of New Deal Studies. Michael has worked for Roosevelt for 15 years and has acquired a lot of knowledge about the auditorium building. Michael, can you tell us what you feel is the most surprising or unusual aspect of the auditorium building?
This building is considered one of the most historically important and architecturally significant buildings in Chicago, so there's a lot to say about it. When it was built, it was America's largest privately owned building. At 14 stories, it was the tallest building in Chicago. If you take a look at this picture, this will give you some idea of what the lakefront area looked like at the time. And although I can't verify it, this book is called the Grzinski book. That's what the dining hall upstairs library now looks like. I can't verify it, but I have heard that this building was the first to have central air and the first to be lit entirely by incandescent light bulbs. All this book, which was written at the time, says is that ice was used to cool the theater. I really wish that I had more details on that, because it sounds fascinating how you would in the 19th century cool a massive theater using only ice. Other things you can say about it: Frank Lloyd Wright worked here as a draftsman. He got fired off the project when it was found he was double dipping. That is, he was being paid for his exclusive services on this building, but he was taking projects on the side. And finally, in 1929, this building closed during the Depression. Plans were made to demolish it. The only reason this building is still here is because the cost of demolishing it exceeded the value of the land.
Okay, so how does the architecture for the auditorium building compare to other examples around downtown or the rest of the city during the late 1800s, especially other Adler and Sullivan works?
Well, it appears that the architecture of Chicago owes a lot to this. Just giving you a little background here. The building was made by Dankmar Adler, who handled the engineering, and Louis Sullivan, who handled the decoration. They worked together on more than 100 building projects, most of them theaters. They were known as theater builders. And the theater was incorporated into this building. It's a multi-purpose building, meaning it's got a hotel, it's got a theater, and it's got stores. After this one was built, they used to build theaters pretty much exclusively, then they broadened out after this. I'm going to be quoting here from Encyclopedia Britannica what they have to say about this. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, their partnership, that is, Adler and Sullivan, was perhaps the most famous and influential in American architecture. Sullivan is regarded as the spiritual father of modern American architecture and is identified with the aesthetics of early skyscraper design. So these later buildings apparently owe a lot to what was done here.
Okay, now finally, what were some of the major renovations or additions that took place after the initial construction was completed? For instance, when the building was taken over by Roosevelt University in 1947.
The building closed during the Great Depression. All the contents of the hotel rooms, even the carpets, were sold off, and the theater was stripped of its furnishings. So the place was essentially gutted, except for the walls. So anytime you see a nice place in here, it's been restored. 1942, first major development. The Army took the building over. Second World War, used it as a rest and recreation center for troops. They whitewashed everything, including the murals, and they turned the theater into a bowling alley. Then, 46, that side of the building, Congress Street was widened, and they removed that whole part of the building fronting on Congress in order to widen it. That removed the ladies' restaurant, the men's cafe, the southern half of the theater lobby, and all the stores that had been on that side. Now, as far as restoration goes, 56, the banquet hall up on the 7th floor was converted into the Gans Recital Hall, and it looks a great deal like the photographs from the time. So that's an excellent area to see if you wanted to have an idea of what the building looked like in its heyday. Then in 58, down on the 2nd floor on that side, the ladies' parlor was turned into what's now called today the Sullivan Room, which is used for special events. 1960, the Auditorium Theater Council was formed to help in restoring the theater. Again, a gorgeous area now, so you should take a look at it if you can. And finally, 1980, the dining hall, that is the area currently inhabited by the library, was restored, and the murals, which had been whitewashed by the Army, were uncovered by a gentleman from Italy who came in and oversaw the restoration.
Okay, well, thank you very much for talking with us, Michael.
You're welcome.